Now on Talking Solutions, back the badge. We've got Randy Sutton in-house. You may know the name. Randy, you're a retired lieutenant with Las Vegas Metro.
Right. Also the Channel 13 crime and safety analyst and the national spokesman for Blue Lives Matter, which is the largest police support organization in the country.
Randy, I think I heard you on the television this past weekend. In fact,
think you did.
Saturday, they were doing a lot of live coverage because Las Vegas Boulevard was completely shut down around the Cosmopolitan.
Right. I was reporting all day long on that live and also for the 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock broadcasts.
It's interesting because during that 24-hour period here in Las Vegas, we had more than one incident. And I know it started out at the Bellagio. 3 people, I guess, in pig masks who came into the Rolex store and a robbery. We had that, at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then 10:30 or so, we've got the dude on the bus who's shooting.
And then there was also another incident that occurred on the Strip, which was a double homicide.
Wow. Violent incidents are ramping up.
Well,
I guess.
Violence is everywhere, and Las Vegas Valley is no different, unfortunately. And we saw a spike in it just during that 48-hour period on the Strip. It's unusual, though. And the incident with the bus was highly unusual. And the people of this city should be very proud of their police department, the way they handled it and brought it to a successful conclusion.
That's why I think it's great to be talking to you today about Back the Badge, because when we do have one of those highly unusual incidents happening on the Strip or somewhere around our area, who comes to our aid? Of course, it's our first responders, it's our police officers, it's Metro. With the bus, I saw the SWAT team members were out doing a great job. And so when we need our officers, they're always there. And it raises the question, what can we as individuals do to support our officers in return?
And I'm so glad you said that because on April 20th, we're going to have a tremendous event at the Orleans, and country star Rodney Atkins is going to be the headliner, the entertainment. We're having a dinner as well as there is going to be a concert, and you can get tickets for either the dinner and the concert or just the concert. It's going to be a fantastic event. You're going to see the multi-jurisdictional honor guard, which is every police department in Southern Nevada, is going to be there, and it's going to benefit a couple of really good charities. The Injured Police Officers Fund for Southern Nevada, as well as COPS, which is Concerns of Police Survivors. The Southern Nevada chapter is fairly new. They do an unbelievable service. They are the ones who take the survivors of law enforcement officers who've been killed in the line of duty. They give them solace. They help them plan the funerals. They bring them to Washington to honor their loved ones at the Police Week Memorial. And then they have training for these families. They bring these families together so that they can help get them through the horrible loss. So we're going to have this event, and all of the profits are going to the Injured Police Officers Fund and Southern Nevada Cops.
I'm a big fan of Rodney Atkins, who's going to be doing the concert at the Orleans on Thursday, April 20th, part of the big Las Vegas Real Estate Expo that's happening. And I know that they are also supporting the cause. Back the Badge.
If it weren't for the expo, this wouldn't be happening. They came to us at COPS and IPOF and said, what can we do to help? We want to create an event. This is when the community and charitable organizations come together. There's really a tremendous amount of synergy. And, as a retired law enforcement officer, it's really nice to see that the reality is this. Despite all the media and the press that people think that everybody hates the cops, it's not true. The majority of Americans support their law enforcement, especially here in the Valley. I have been through, unfortunately, the deaths of police officers here, especially as a member of the Honor Guard that I've served for 15 years with. I can tell you that the community of Las Vegas is very misunderstood. People look upon our community as this cold, heartless, casino-driven populace, and it's not true. The people of Las Vegas are very giving. They support their law enforcement officers, and I'm very proud to be a Las Vegan.
I absolutely agree with you, and we are misunderstood, but I think it's wonderful that from the outside they're looking at the Strip and they're seeing the lights and they're blinded by that, but under the surface, this is a very caring community.
It very much is, and I'm hoping that we're going to see a ton of folks out there. I mean, this event center is pretty big.
Yes.
And Rodney Atkins is a tremendous entertainer.
He's a great guy.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing him. But besides the fact that we're going to have this dinner, and it's only $100 a ticket for the dinner and the show. The concert itself is only $25. And like I said, this is a tremendous way to A, have a great night out, and B, support these two tremendous organizations, the Injured Police Officers Fund, Southern Nevada, and also Concerns of Police Survivors of Southern Nevada, and have a great time doing it. And there is also going to be 2 custom-made rifles raffled off For the gun enthusiasts in our audience, these are beautiful weapons. They have specific engravings, which will make them very unique, that have the Injured Police Officers Fund logo on one, COPS logo on the other, and in honor of the last officer who was killed in the line of duty, Chad Parquet, we're going to have his badge number engraved on the rifles as well. So it's going to be a really special night.
I know we're coming up on 3 years since we lost officers back in Soldo, and I know that as a community, we all mourned together. I remember getting up on stage at June Fest that next weekend, and before I introed the band, talked about that just briefly, and dedicated that day to the memory of our officers. During that time, they were saying that they didn't want officers riding alone, so they had teamed them up in their vehicles. And I know that when you're feeling it so deeply in your heart that you're suffering alongside and you don't know exactly how to express it, I know that there have been times where riding up next to the cars, just looking at them and smiling and doing a little heart, we always look for ways to support our officers and show that we care.
You know, it's funny you should say that, because even despite, like I said, all of the media attention on the negative stuff that's been going on, I have interactions with cops from all over the nation, literally hundreds of times a week. Many of these officers I don't know personally, but they reach out to me in my capacity as a talk show host on Blue Lives Radio, as well as my blog on Facebook, Randy Sutton Public Figure, and as the spokesman for Blue Lives Matter. So I get a lot of interaction. And one of the things that I have been really surprised and heartened about is the number of officers who've told me that they have never had so many people, strangers, just come up to them and thank them for their service. And so this is something that we're seeing also, despite all the negative stuff. The vast majority of Americans do support their law enforcement officers, and now they're being more vocal about it. And I can't tell you how much those officers appreciate just a kind word and a hello.
We need to show our appreciation, just like we've gotten better with our military members.
Yes.
When someone serves in the military, I believe their family also serves, and I think it's the same thing with law enforcement officers.
Oh, absolutely. You couldn't be more correct. The family is always involved. Every police officer trains their family to react in certain ways when they're out socially, in case they have to jump into action. These two charitable organizations that we're having this benefit for, Injured Police Officers Fund and Concerns of Police Survivors, that is the reason that they exist, because of the physical sacrifices that law enforcement officers make all over the country, but more specifically here in Southern Nevada. And there's been a lot of mortality. There's been a lot of police deaths in the last few years. And that's why it's so important to come out on the 20th and Thursday and back the badge.
We're talking with retired Metro Lieutenant Randy Sutton about Back the Badge and a wonderful fundraising event. Concert coming up Thursday, April 20th with Rodney Atkins at the Orleans Arena. He's good in concert. I was working for Coyote when Rodney first came through with his hits. He does a great show. Back the Badge and raising money that is supporting local law enforcement.
Oh, yeah, this stays in Southern Nevada. The Injured Police Officers Fund is the fund that helps officers who have been injured and killed in the line of duty here in Southern Nevada. And Southern Nevada Concerns of Police Survivors are exactly that. It's a support organization for the families of the fallen. And it all stays right here in Southern Nevada.
So it's a chance to raise a whole bunch of money for really good causes on Thursday, April 20th at the concert with Rodney Atkins, plus dinner if you want to do that. Dinner and the show for $100.
Yeah, and I saw the menu. I mean, it's a fantastic buffet. Where can you get entertainment like this for $100 and see the multi-jurisdictional honor guard perform and hear yours truly? I'm going to talk about what it really means to be a cop. You know, I've written 4 books as an author. Sometimes it helps me to get my thoughts in line to write something, and I'm going to read one of the things that I wrote to the people there. I think they'll be pretty moved by it.
So it's more than a concert.
Yeah.
It's also appreciation and understanding of law enforcement officers.
Yeah, it's going to be informative, but it's going to be entertaining. That's the name of the game here. Rodney Atkins. It's a 90-minute concert. Going to be a fantastic dinner and cocktails. It's on the 20th. Got to come out.
It is Back the Badge, Thursday, April 20th at the Orleans Arena. Randy Sutton is in with us. We always ask, as part of the show, what can we do to help you?
That's a great question. One of the things that law enforcement really feels so strongly about is interacting with the people that they serve and realizing that there's humanity behind that badge. Here's one of the things that is an unfortunate reality to policing. we wear a uniform. That uniform itself is intimidating. It almost acts as a barrier sometimes between interacting in a positive way with a citizen. Because let's face it, most people, when they're interacting with a police officer, it's not their best day. They may be receiving an enforcement action like a ticket or, being stopped in a traffic stop, something along those lines, or they've been the victim of a crime. So their interaction with a police officer is negative. They're given a report. They just had their house burglarized or something of that nature. Those interactions are negative, and that's when people mostly equate their interactions. So how do you have a positive interaction? It's a two-sided coin here because it's up to the police to make the first move very often and just talk to someone. When you walk up to someone and you're in your uniform and you say, hey, I'd just like to buy you a cup of coffee. You'd be surprised at how often police officers do that. And they see someone in a convenience store or a restaurant, they sit down and they just start a conversation. But also, cops look for citizens to do that as well. Just say, hey, thanks for your service. Let me buy you a cup of coffee. And that starts a conversation. And that's where people communicate on a one-on-one basis, realize that we're all in this together.
I always say when we shine a light on something, it helps to raise awareness, which promotes understanding and empathy. And if we all understood more about each other, we'd all be nicer to each other.
We're getting pretty deep here, but if you talk about any prejudice, you talk about any bias, it's always based on fear and ignorance, whether it's the skin color or it's a religious basis or it's a uniform. Because police officers, believe it or not, they know prejudice more than most because everyone has an opinion about a cop. And a lot of the times they're not good opinions. So when people are painted with a broad brush, that happens, and that's really, in essence, that's what prejudice is. So it's a matter of getting to know people and reaching out and touching people in a positive way, which, to tell you the truth, was the best part of being a cop for 34 years, was being able to play a role in their lives.
Make a difference.
Absolutely.
So is there anything else that we should do?
Yes.
Well, we should get tickets,
yes,
obviously,
get tickets.
for the concert on Thursday, April 20th at the Orleans Arena with Rodney Atkins. What a great country star he is. Favorite song by Rodney is called Watching You, about a dad and his little boy, and it's adorable. He'll do that for sure. That was a big #1 hit for Rodney. Lots of things going on at that event. We will make sure that all the information, links and everything are provided also on our Talking Solutions Facebook page, along with a podcast of our discussion today.
Good. That's what we like to hear.
Randy, you also mentioned that you have a broadcast as well.
I do. I have a podcast called Blue Lives Radio, the voice of American law enforcement. It's an hour-long show. I feature half-hour or so guest interviews with some really interesting people who touch on some very emotional topics. And then I give my view from the blue, which is all about what I'm thinking about some of the insanity that's going on in this country with some of the people that are not so supportive of law enforcement or the political stuff that's going on. And so it's entertaining and it's hard-hitting. And each week I also pay homage to any police officer who has given their life in the line of duty. So it can be an emotional broadcast on every week. It's on iTunes and Stitcher and also on AmericaOutloud.com. That's my network, America Out Loud. And there's a bunch of great podcasts there, but Blue Lives Radio, the voice of American law enforcement.
Those links are also available on the Talking Solutions Facebook page. So if anybody wants to tune in and hear what you've got to say, another opportunity. Do you think, Randy, that the show is most interesting to other law enforcement officers and their family, or people who are outside of that life who are trying to figure out more about what you guys are doing?
Actually, I think it's pretty much 50-50. As the national spokesman for Blue Lives Matter, we have about 1.5 million followers on Facebook. Our website, bluelivesmatter.blue, gets about 10 million hits a month. And believe it or not, they are mostly supporters of law enforcement.
Yes.
And that, to me, is very telling. When you have 10 million people visiting your website, which is a news and information website, and the vast majority of them are just good citizens that are interested in supporting law enforcement, that's a very telling statistic. And so the podcast is geared towards everyone. Anyone that has any interest in the topics of law enforcement will be entertained and get some good information. And anybody that wants to interact with me, Facebook is the best way. If you go to Randy Sutton Public Figure, you can communicate with me. I love to hear from the people that have something to say. Most of the time it's pretty positive. Every now and then you get, of course, the hate mail, but for the most part, I love to interact with folks and they can contact me there.
Well, we were just asking about great ways for us as individual citizens to show our support for law enforcement. And even though you are retired, Lieutenant, from Metro, once you're in the life, are you always in the life?
I'd have to say yes. When I retired from Metro, I didn't actually plan to retire. I had a life-changing event. I had a stroke in my police car. It was the most frightening moment of my life, and I was very fortunate that I was given a second chance. And as a result of that, legacy is really important to me. And the legacy that I hope to leave is one of very positive for the people that I respect the most, and that's American law enforcement, which is why I'm so active in the world of law enforcement as an advocate for police and as the national spokesman for Blue Lives Matter. All that is part of the pathway that has shown us, even if some of that is very negative, like the stroke that removed me from the career that I loved.
It's interesting that medical episode in your life, you said was the scariest incident that you had ever experienced.
Yes.
And I'm thinking of 30 years plus of law enforcement background that you would think had lots and lots of scary things that happened to you before that moment.
I did. Quite honestly, I was in a number of officer-involved shootings during my career, and you don't get scared until afterwards when you realize the possibilities. And those are life-changing events. Many people believe from television and media and movies that police officers go out there and they're involved in gunfights all the time. The reality is that less than 3% of any police officer will ever draw their weapon and fire in the line of duty. So it's very, very rare when it happens, and it's very dramatic. It's a life-changing event for everyone involved, including the police officer, including his family or her family. So the realities of policing are that there are frightening aspects. I mean, if I stood here before you and said, I wasn't scared, I'd be a liar, and I was. But everything paled in comparison to the stroke, which left me without complete control. I was unable to speak. I was unable to move, and it was literally the most frightening moment of my life, being completely helpless. And it was in my patrol car on the Las Vegas Strip, and tourists are standing there taking pictures of me while I'm helpless on the pavement. It was really a frightening time. And I was so fortunate in that I was able to recover from that. And so in the time that I have, I devote as much as I can to making a positive difference. And this Back the Badge event is part of that. This is part of how do you make a difference in this world? Well, by being part of tremendous events like Back the Badge, where we're going to help the Injured Police Officers Fund, we're going to help concerns of police survivors, we're going to bring the community closer together with their police, we're going to see that there's a great synergy that takes place between the community and their officers. And so, to me, that's the best way to live your life.
That's the best way that we can support our police officers and our law enforcement community is by going out to this concert, to this event. Thursday, April 20th at the Orleans Arena. Rodney Atkins in concert. He's a good time. He's a lot of fun. Plus, there's other things happening as part of the evening. The dinner and the show, as Randy mentioned, $100. If you want to go to the concert itself, $25. All the profits are going to go to support local law enforcement causes. It sounds like a great time. All the information, of course, links and everything will be on our Talking Solutions Facebook page, along with the podcast. Is there anything that I'm forgetting?
I don't think that we've forgotten anything. It's been a nice opportunity to talk to you and to let the folks know out there that we're going to be having a great event and that their officers would love for them to come out and interact with them out there. There's going to be a lot of cops there, and I'll be there. I'd love to meet your listeners. They can come up to me. I'm pretty accessible. Buy me a cocktail. I'll tell you everything.
Everybody's got a price. That sounds like a good time. Randy Sutton, we are so fortunate that you came through that stroke that ended your career with Metro and that you had great people to help you recover.
True, that I did.
And you are making a real difference for all of us in Southern Nevada.
That's the best thing that I could ask for, is to have an impact.
I like that way of thinking. Randy Sutton, thank you so much for joining us today on Talking Solutions.
Terry, thank you so much for having me.